Part 21. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 201. The Queen knows how to knit and sew. She is even better at knitting. Her sweaters are beautifully knitted. She likes to play with flower ropes. She is obviously such a big person, and she still plays with flower ropes. She is not a child like Firefly and Amethyst Quartz. After saying this, Javelin looked around and whispered, "We can't let her find out." Yes, in fact, she is always evil. How do you put it in that sentence? Yandere. Oh my god, it's actually as crispy as paper. The fried fish is pretty awesome, but the destroyer's fried fish isn't great. Other than that, there doesn't seem to be anything outstanding about it. A good vomit. When you see her later, Admiral, don't think it's strange. The Queen likes to say that she is her concubine. It's such a strange and incomprehensible title. Looking at the talkative Javelin, Sugu thought to himself, "You always keep talking about me, my lady, so it's not much better." Then Javelin looked at Sugu and said, "By the way, what else can you call me besides concubine?" Call. That is, you are called me, or me. First person. Villain, humble minister, boy, Sagia, me, this palace, a certain family, such a name. You actually know that, so which title is the most powerful among them? I. Then I will no longer be my lady, I will call you me. I don't need to add the word this in front of me. Javelin's Chinese skills are really not good enough. After all, the Prince of Wales has never deliberately taught anyone Chinese. At this time, she turned back and complained, "I didn't tell you earlier." With that said, the two walked through the town guard's mansion and walked to a house covered with red tiles. Tianho's studio is located to the south of the governor's mansion. The road is full of big trees, the species of which Sugu simply recognizes. At this time, due to the rain a few days ago, a lot of leaves had been knocked down. Now some more had fallen, and a tree looked bare. Go up the stairs to the second floor, pass through a corridor, then open the door and see a large room. Javelin whispered, "Let's sneak in and give the Queen a surprise." The room is not big, and there is a large long table in the middle. On the long table are various fabrics, rulers, and chalks. In addition, there are yarn balls, a ball wrapped in yarn, a yarn piggy and a yarn dinosaur. The yarn dinosaur is like yarn Yoshi in Mario. There are also many handicrafts and small accessories made of wool. After taking 2 steps, he saw a beautiful Chinese knot hanging on the wall next to it. What a dexterity! Going deeper, I saw a sewing machine, and 2 sewn clothes were placed next to the sewing machine. All the way to the room, Sugu saw a figure next to the window sill. The girl has long, slightly curly blue hair, wears a headband and a scarf, and wears a well-tailored skirt. It must be said that the ship girls are all beautiful girls. And compared to the appearance of a Javelin, the Queen is obviously more like a British lady. Javelin jumped up at this time and started to say hello. "Hey, Queen, do you see who I brought here?" The Queen looked like she was deep in thought, but the two of them came in cautiously, so they didn't notice. At this time, she was awakened by the sound of the Javelin. She turned her head and saw Sugu standing up and said, "Admiral, you are back." The elegant movements show the style of a British lady. Sugu said, "Yes, I'm back. The Prince of Wales came over just now and said he wanted to ask you to sew formal clothes. When do I want you to come over? Some things delayed me a little bit, so I just came here now." Such an ordinary conversation. You're not excited at all. Are you still my ship girl? But think about it, how much favor does the Queen have? I really don't remember, but I do remember that in the game, I could get the other person's skin for free, which improved my goodwill for a while. But why is this happening? Where's the promised hug? What about cheering? Where's the excitement? What a bland conversation, so disappointing. Feeling a little disappointed, Sugu still told what the Prince of Wales told him now. After all, we were going to a banquet. At this time, I didn't know whether everyone should wear normal formal clothes or admiral uniforms. If it was admiral uniforms, I really didn't bring them with me. What kind of banquet is the admiral going to attend? Did not notice. Admiral, do you want clothes or pants? A whole set. While Javelin was playing with the woolen doll in boredom, Tianho took a measuring tape and placed it around Sugu's chest. Although even a ship girl is naturally good at some things. For example, if you have counterattack and reputation, you are naturally good at all kinds of housekeeping, but compared to counterattack, reputation is that you are a head maid, a dashing head maid, and you are even good at all kinds of things. However, for the queen at this time, the tailor's skills were average, and she could not tell other people's figures at a glance, even though her skills were not too bad. What kind of clothes does the admiral like? Whatever. After getting the chest data, the queen then started to measure the width of the shoulders. You say it casually, and it makes it difficult for people to handle it. Sugu said, you shouldn't just have a formal suit. Formal attire is for banquets. You are asking me what kind of clothes you like, just treat it as a curiosity. Okay, just ask. Admiral, do you like maid uniforms? It's like a counterattack against the maid uniforms you usually wear. I sewed those. Maid outfit, nice. Then the queen began to use a measuring tape to measure the length from Sugu's waist to his ankles. I also sewed bunny girl clothes for the queen. Do you like it, Admiral? I haven't seen it before. If it's an open-chested sweater, would you mind making the chest wider or making it smaller? Whatever. That's it, I have designed wedding dresses for others before. It was asked by an admiral I know. Admiral, would you like me to help design wedding dresses? How many sets do you want? Richelieu, Washington, Shokakuzi Wikaku, Akagakaga, Counterattack, Veneto, it always comes in handy to design in advance. Veneto shouldn't consider it. She is still a child. Marrying her would be a bit abnormal. Quincy shouldn't be considered a child. Quincy doesn't count. Speaking of which, the Admiral and Xiao Zai are together. Do you want to design clothes for her? The Queen said. She had already heard about her Admiral from Firefly. At this time, she squatted on the ground and pulled the measuring tape all the way to her heels. Speaking of Xiaozai, Sugu showing a little excitement, he said, is it okay? Admiral, just say it. Xiaozai, I used to think about buying her a dinosaur suit, the kind that puts the whole person in. A dinosaur suit with only one head exposed will be very cute. If possible, I also want a little tiger suit. Clothes, and then the tail will wag while walking. How about a pajama-style design? Of course it's best if it's designed as pajamas. Occasionally I sleep with my little house in my arms. I don't want to talk about that feeling. After talking casually for a while and taking various measurements, the Queen wrote down the data on the paper next to the long table, sighed and said, although I only said such short words, but the amount of information is so huge. Hearing these words, Sugu's heart couldn't help but thump. Then the Queen said while clasping her fingers, Richelieu, Washington, Shokakuzi Wikaku, Akagakaga, Counterattack, even the little fat South Dakota, Helena, even Wichita and Quincy also want to. However, he is really an evil admiral, and everyone who has a good impression of him does not want to let him go. Moreover, among so many people, the most mentioned one is Xiaozai, who likes little girls and is quite perverted. The admiral has been here for so long, but he didn't come until today. It's because he has something to do and he just ignored me. Sugu quickly explained, I have something to do. The Queen patted Sugu's chest and said, anyway, I know someone's perverted thoughts and preferences, my uniform-loving, Lolita-loving, pervert admiral." Saying this, the queen found a piece of clothing from the cabinet next to her. "It shouldn't matter if I change the clothes of the Prince of Wales into those of the admiral." Sugu was a little confused, why it suddenly became like this. Also, the girl may have created the atmosphere too normal, and you seem to be a bit sinister. I clearly remember that the queen should be a British lady. Then I thought about it carefully, and I remembered that the Queen of Heaven didn't have a broken expression on her skin. She squinted her eyes and pursed her lips, and she seemed to have a really sinister look. Then the queen said, "I will invite the admiral to my tea party." By now, Sugu could confirm that the queen's favor was 100, but the sinister girl couldn't bear it. After coming out of the Queen of Heaven, I was groggy. I didn't expect that a mere destroyer had so many tricks. It was really careless. It has to be said that it is because I have been in contact with these cute ship girls for too long, and I often forget to disguise myself, and then directly express my thoughts, but the girl is indeed a bit sinister. Javelin was left behind by the Queen of Heaven. Sugu wanted to find Firefly and Amethyst when he saw counterattack approaching. "Master, you are here." "Yes. Because of some important matters, the Prince of Wales is going out for a while, so, now it's your turn to handle the documents. He said that your level is not bad, and you must at least shoulder the responsibilities as an admiral." Sugu said, "It's no problem, it's a joke." "Brag, master." At this time, the counterattack smiled. Compared with the initial reserve, even the counterattack has changed a bit now. Compared with the master who existed in the memory in the past, the image of his master has changed a lot now, and he is not easy to lose his temper. A guy who takes soft things rather than hard ones, instead of getting angry at every turn like before. He countered, "Speaking of which, the Prince of Wales told me, does the master know the etiquette of banquets?" "I've learned a little bit, but I'm actually not good at it. I'm not even good at using knives and forks. I heard there are many kinds of knife and fork etiquette. I haven't even eaten Western food a few times in the past, although Lexington has done it. But he will not deliberately ask him to use a knife, and he has done many things to pick up steaks with chopsticks. Speaking of which, he has a casual personality." He countered, "You don't need to learn that for the time being, because the banquet is a buffet, with lots and lots of dishes. You can just take whatever you want. If there is a banquet, there will probably be a dance. Can the admiral dance? Waltz doesn't count. Forget it. Actually, I'm not very good at it either. I've almost forgotten it. Then I need to train you. I heard from the diva that you wore a bunny girl costume. Do you want to see?" Sugu nodded. A blush appeared on his face and he said, "I don't want to show it to you." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 202. The documents left by the Prince of Wales were actually not many, but they were processed by Sugu in a short period of time. Of course, the help of counterattack was indispensable. All along, if the Prince of Wales has played the role of admiral, then the counterattack has been the secretary's ship, although she is also a maid. After finishing processing the documents soon after, Sugu put down his pen and talked to counterattack about the banquet. The Prince of Wales had deliberately mentioned it, so he remembered it clearly. At this time, Advisor Su asked, "What kind of banquet is that?" Although I had read the letter and the invitation, I didn't recognize any of the names on the letter or the invitation. He countered, "People often organize banquets to invite everyone. Most of the time it is the local government, or it may be some large companies related to shipping. But this time it is just a banquet held by the admiral spontaneously. The admiral's spontaneous banquet must be different from the previous ones. Government affairs are generally official, and banquets organized by large companies usually discuss shipping routes. Banquets organized by admirals on their own initiative are more entertainment-oriented. Is there a dance at the party? Maybe, but this time it seems that a certain admiral wants to set up a bridge for the Prince of Wales. There should be a ball. Sugu was a little discouraged and said, "That's it, by the way, would it be embarrassing if I sucked at dancing?" Really sucks. In the eyes of many people, you have suddenly become the admiral of the Prince of Wales. They will be unhappy, and they will attack you. Your performance is too poor, maybe, I don't know. By this time, in the afternoon, the sea breeze was blowing, and Sui suddenly said, "How about I have to teach the master how to dance?" To be honest, Sugu really had no interest in dancing, but thinking that he could not embarrass the Prince of Wales, he nodded and agreed to the idea of counterattack. "Oh well. Master, wait for me," counterattack said and then left. When Sugu saw counterattack again, it was already half an hour later. When I saw counterattack again, she was not wearing a maid outfit, but a white long dress with a beautiful ruffled neckline, and black high heels on her feet, which made a clicking sound when she stepped on the ground. At this time, the long golden hair was not tied up, but poured down, which was completely different from the previous image of the maid. Then he noticed that Sugu was looking at him, and he stretched out his hand to pull the collar on his chest, then showed a reddish expression. The eyes of different colors, gold and blue, blinked, as tempting as a cat at this time. He countered by saying, "I wore it like this when I attended a banquet with the Prince of Wales. Isn't it strange?" "It's not strange, I just want to say, isn't it cold in this weather, dressed like this?" Of course, if the ship girl opens the ship's suit, she will not be afraid of the cold, but that will require continuous consumption of resources. Resources are rare, so it is not necessary to open ship equipment at will and waste resources. Therefore, to protect against the cold, even ship girls will wear winter clothes in winter. He countered, "Of course it's cold. Since it's cold, you're still wearing it?" If I hadn't become an admiral, Master would probably never find a girlfriend in his life. Of course, it's cold, and it's not just for the sake of being smug. She counterattacked and pulled up the hem of her long skirt, and then made a ladle-like squatting movement. Then he grabbed the corner of the skirt and swung it in place. At this moment, she was like a girl who had never worn a skirt before and suddenly put on a beautiful long skirt, so she felt excited and a little overwhelmed. He counterattacked and said, "Ha, actually the place we went to was heated. In the past, of course I had to wear a coat, but it's weird to wear so many clothes at the banquet. Yes, dancing in a big cotton padded jacket is like two peanuts dancing. That would be very strange. Even if you are a ship girl, wearing so many clothes will make her look bloated and ugly. At this time, we are in the castle-like building of the town hall. The hall is covered with carpets. In fact, even if it is a cold day, your bare feet will not feel cold. In addition, the windows and doors were closed all around, so the cold wind couldn't blow. It was a pity that it was still cold." He countered, "Since you're going to the dance, you better practice your waltz." Sugu remembers learning some waltzes in high school, but actually he has almost forgotten them now. Not to mention college life, let alone dancing, I spend most of my time surfing the internet, occasionally reading, and rarely participate in clubs or other activities. Even in friendships, I don't have much interest. At that time, I agreed with one sentence, "Don't always play games, go out for a walk more often." If you go out, you will find that playing games is so enjoyable. Life in college was really a bit decadent, and then I started working hard to prepare for the exam when I was working. However, my hard work ended here without seeing any results. Sugu said, "What should be the first step in the waltz?" "Take my hand." Just like that, Sugu stretched out his hand, and then the two of them intertwined their fingers, and the counterattack couldn't help but tremble. Counterattack lowered his head and said, "Watch my steps." Then, driven by the counterattack, Sugu practiced little by little. It was so far away from the time when I first learned the waltz in high school that I have completely forgotten the steps. Although he was practicing at this time, he was being lectured most of the time. Put your arms up. You almost stepped on my foot. I take a step back, and you take a step forward. Didn't you learn it when you were in the academy? Sugu looked innocent and said, I don't have much chance. I spend all day in the library. I have to go home immediately after class. There are so many people at home, how can I have the chance to learn to dance and attend the banquet? But you are a very good dancer. She's a maid, of course she's good at it. To be honest, master, you are really bad at dancing, but the Prince of Wales is not very good at dancing, so you two are just right. Recalling what the Prince of Wales said, attending a banquet and counter-attacking are always regarded as female companions. Then Sugu said, for the ball, the Prince of Wales used to wear men's clothes. Should I invite others to dance at the ball? No, a man invited her to dance. Well, master, come close to me, don't be shy. The latter words were because Sugu couldn't keep up with her movements. Sugu had a strange expression and said, well, now I have to stretch my legs forward. By the way, the Prince of Wales is wearing men's clothing, and there are two men. Isn't that a strange scene? After thinking about it, there is no way for the Prince of Wales to disguise his chest. Even if he is wearing men's clothes, he doesn't look like a man. I have to say that the Prince of Wales's figure is indeed too explosive. The Prince of Wales never accepts invitations from men, but, well, many ship girls come to invite her to dance. The Prince of Wales is very handsome in men's clothes, and she is very popular. She happens to be a ship girl too, so for the ship girls who invite her for me, even my own admirals will not go wrong. Moreover, those admirals also hope that their ship wives will make friends with the Prince of Wales, so that they may be able to win over the Prince of Wales. It doesn't mean that no one will take action if there is an admiral's ship girl. You weren't here, and you never showed up, well, you stepped on my toes. Then he counterattacked and said, be careful, and, master, what are you looking at? Did you happen to see your earrings with diamonds on them? Half-hearted, the earrings are fake and made of glass. But it's beautiful. Really, counterattack said, and his ears turned slightly red involuntarily. Then Sugu's voice came out, now it's time to fight back because you stepped on my foot. Master, if you are not an admiral, you really can't have a girlfriend. In fact, this kind of dancing has been bumpy and bumpy all the time, which is totally ridiculous. If you go to a banquet in a few days, this kind of dance will probably be really laughable. Although I was practicing at this time, most of the time I was just talking. To achieve something, you have to do it with half the effort, but now it is half the effort with twice the effort. On the other side, there is really no way to fight back against his unsatisfactory master. Not long after, she was sitting at the long table in the hall with her feet hopping. The reason for her hopping was that she had been stepped on many times by Sugu. Sitting at the long table, he patted the shoe prints on his high heels and said, how can you target girls if you don't even know how to dance? Even if you are an admiral, there are many admirals who are still single at the age of 30. It's because they don't know how to coax girls. Sugu retorted, you can conquer the game just by dancing. If that's all, then the difficulty of the battle is too low. I think it depends on the personality. If it's York City, you know her. Even if you invite her to dance, it might be considered a provocation, and you might get a whip. Counterattack raised his head and said, if you dance well, you might be able to attack me. I have to say that because I came into contact with too many ship girls during this period, I also learned to talk sweetly. Sugu said, really? He counterattacked, it's fake. After all, I already have a favorability level of 100, so I don't even need a guide. With such generous words of counterattack, Sugu was defeated. He responded with a smile, a guy with a lustful heart but no courage. Sugu was still thinking about how to reply, but his face turned red when he saw the counterattack. What he said actually made him blush, which was amazing. However, thinking about this, Sugu suddenly noticed that the face of the counterattack was not shy red, but an unnatural flush. "Are you feeling unwell? Do you have a cold?" After saying this, Sugu took off his coat. After all, he had been wearing a thin dress. Counterattack coughed at this time and said, "Master does not need to take off his clothes, in other words, this is a bit of a gentleman." Sugu shrugged his shoulders indifferently and said, "You have been dancing for such a long time. It is actually very hot now, so you just wear it. Do you often do this? Do you need to take medicine if you want hot water?" Fighting back, he grabbed the hem of Sugu's clothes with both hands and said, "I still get sick occasionally, but it's not a cold. I get sick all the time and feel uncomfortable. It's because of the ship's uniform. How could a ship suit get sick? Even those real battleships will not be able to move if their boilers explode. If the ship's equipment fails, it means it is sick. Just like Richelieu's explosive cannon, if the barrel explodes, it means the ship's equipment is sick. Just like my ship equipment, even if it is not used, it will be uncomfortable if it breaks down occasionally." In the counterattack placement dialogue in the game, he mentioned that he was often sick, and Sugu was somewhat impressed by this. When the game becomes reality, then of course counterattacks will get sick from time to time. Then he complained back, "Inferior ship equipment." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 203. Sugu squatted in front of the fireplace in the room, tinkered with it and said, "How should this fireplace be used? The fireplace has never been used." "Is that so?" Under the guidance of counterattack, Sugu added more wood and more fire, and soon Sugu finally lit up the fire in the fireplace. At this time, counterattack was sitting on a large chair by the fireplace with his coat draped around him. The clothes he had originally draped on his body had long been returned to Sugu. Although she has repeatedly stated that she is in good health, her counterattack has the stubborn side of a maid. How can she let her master catch the cold? "Whenever I get a chance, I find another piece of clothing and put it on. Fighting back is uncomfortable." Although Sugu had never seen a ship girl fall ill before, but now that he had encountered one, of course he had to shoulder the responsibility as an admiral. So from the beginning, under the guidance of counterattack, the opponent was brought here. The room looked good at this time. There was a big bear fur on the floor, and a stuffed reindeer head hung on the wall. He counterattacked and said, "These things were all dug out from the warehouse of this townhouse. They should have been given to the admiral here by someone else. The specimens were also the same, as was the bear skin. I thought they looked good, so we moved them out." A fire was lit in the fireplace, and Sugu squatted beside it and rubbed his hands. "When I felt uncomfortable in the past, I would come here and light a fire to keep me warm. Although I feel uncomfortable, I don't need to take medicine. I just sit quietly and everything will be fine when the time comes. For us ship girls, you won't get sick from cold, fever or tetanus. Anyway, just treat us like machines." Sugu said, "If you think of a ship girl as a machine, then she becomes an artificial girl." With Sugu's words, the atmosphere of self-pity was immediately dispelled. When she heard Sugu's words, she pursed her lips in retort. She picked up the hot tea placed next to her and said with a smile, "If you say anything else, I will be slandered by you." If Sugu's words were too much for a strange ship girl, but Sugu was already familiar with counterattacks, so it didn't matter. Occasionally, he would joke and retaliate by calling him a useless admiral, saying that he would definitely become a female comfort product in the future after marrying so many ship girls. Counterattack is a well-behaved maid who is sometimes shy when speaking, but she also has the lively temperament of a girl. At this time, she was not wearing a maid uniform, and her serious maid remarks were much less frequent. It was just a matter of words, and the counterattack was just a gesture. Then she held the tea and curled her legs on the large chair. Then he tilted his head and said, "I'll put you in the fireplace and roast you." The fire in the fireplace was burning brightly because there was too much firewood. Sugu took off his coat but did not put it on. He moved a small bench and sat by the fireplace. He looked at the burning flames and said, "When I was a child, I always liked to make fires. It was best to burn charcoal fires for warmth. When I was a child, sometimes when I go back to the countryside, they all use that kind of stove. They cook on the stove and stir-fry on the stove. After the meal, they pull out the charcoal fire from the stove and everyone talks around the stove. It's comfortable, but if you put it on the fire will be stronger. You can also bake glutinous rice cakes. You have eaten glutinous rice cakes. Rice cakes are not included. The most enjoyable thing is to bury the sweet potatoes in the ashes at night. Inside, when you pull the sweet potatoes out of the ashes the next day, they are really delicious." Sugu recalled what happened when he was a child and counterattacked, "Master, if you want to eat it now, you can eat it every day. There must be many ship girls who want to roast sweet potatoes for you." "Just saying, even if it's roasted sweet potatoes, I don't really want to eat them now. It's just a memory, even if it's eaten, who will help me bake them? I guess most of the time I will help them roast the sweet potatoes." Looking at his master who was just waiting to die, he counterattacked with an expression of surprise, "Master can still do things. Don't arrange people. I told you before. When we were in the guard house, everyone took turns cooking. I have more time to cook. After all, my skills are good." Counterattack held the hot tea, blew into it, and said, "Is your craft really good? But my level is pretty bad." "It's quite a bad level, this is completely sincere. However, I couldn't say anything sincerely, so I counterattacked, I'm asking for a beating, I didn't see you cooking. It doesn't matter if I do it, the main thing is that you give me a chance. However, the master is an admiral, how can he do such a thing? Even if he speaks openly at this time, he still has his own persistence in fighting back. After all, the soul of the maid is buried deep in his heart." Of course, Sugu didn't understand counterattack's insistence on the maid. He said casually, "Then just think of me as the housekeeper and deacon." "But the master is still the admiral." As if he thought of something, he counterattacked, "How many ship girls do you want to marry after working so hard? Don't look at me through the eyes of the past. I am a very loyal person." Counterattack looked at Sugu suspiciously and said, "Are you loyal? Be loyal to a beautiful 18-year-old girl. I was discovered by you again." Counterattack started laughing at such a quip. Sugu continued, "To be honest, before I met Xiaozai, some ordinary people liked me, but I controlled it. Drunk people will say that they are not drunk, and those who lie will say that they are telling the truth. Moreover, I heard that human beings need a bride price when they get married. Can the master give me the money for the bride price? Some places require a betrothal gift, and some places do not require a betrothal gift and require the woman to give money. For example, Third Brother's place is a magical country. It's better for us ship girls, just a ring will do the trick. How many sisters has the master married just with a ring?" After saying this, Sugu thought of the shadows of the past. "Being able to be liked by so many people is not at all due to my own abilities, apart from being very distant. It's not that he is eloquent and can coax girls, nor is he handsome that makes people close their legs. Being able to be liked by so many people is actually entirely due to luck and time travel. It is precisely because of this that at first it was like my own psychological shadow. Although I always like to say that I am eating soft rice, I still want to be recognized, so I have been working hard. But then I thought about it, those people who were born with a silver spoon in their mouths are not the same. They are handsome, have money at home, are well educated, and are talented and smart. There are even some people who are naturally gifted, focused, and have a photographic memory. Just like when they were children, some people did very well despite not studying. This world is inherently unfair. For the time being, I can be considered one of the unfair ones, although I still don't feel at ease. I thought about a lot of things before, but now I don't have so many ideas. Sugu said, it's enough to just ask for a ring, but don't you also need 100 favorability points? He laughed back and said, then how much do you think the Prince of Wales likes you now? Although I really want to confidently say something like 200 favors, after thinking about it, I don't seem to be able to judge. Counterattack rolled his eyes at Sugu, and then said, who wants you to disappear without thinking? By the way, Master, do you still remember what happened when I just arrived? Do you remember what happened before? When I first arrived at the governor's mansion, I just saw the famous sister. She was really chic and handsome. She has always been very powerful, and I really admired her. I tried hard to be worthy of her, but it never worked. I originally wanted to work hard, but at that time just leave me alone all the time, it's so heartless and unreasonable. Only when there is no strategy mission, do you let me go out to practice. Practice, practice. Sister Renren is really powerful. No matter what kind of task she is, she can complete it with ease. I'm so envious. I don't know when I will have such strength, but I can never compare to my sister. I heard that she is accompanying Hood now. Hood, although she is a senior, even the senior of the Prince of Wales, sometimes she is confused. She has 2 cats, named Ginger and Fishcake. Is it Ginger or Fishcake? She stuffed the cat in my own chest. I am really an unreliable senior. She, although she has opened a big company now, I think it must be Sister Reputation who does the work. She is an excellent head maid. Hood, Chairman Seal. You are still really confident about your sister's reputation. Even when you feel uncomfortable, you always talk about it with a look of admiration. Sugu said, you should be equipped with super powerful equipment, it's not bad. Counterattack made an exaggerated expression and said, it's embarrassing to say that I got such powerful equipment, but I never attacked at all. I always fought there, the Battle of Denmark Strait. Even now I can memorize that the process is over, single horizontal formation, then destroyer anti-submarine. There are always fights like that. I don't know why there are so many fights. If the game were reality, it would certainly seem a bit inexplicable. But fortunately, no one is obsessed with the past. As Lexington said, the past is in the past, and what awaits everyone is the future. Thinking like this, Sugu looked at the sky. A lot of things happened today. From running away with the javelin, to having a barbecue on the lighthouse with everyone. Then going to see the diva, to working on files and practicing dance counterattacks, to now chatting. At this time, looking out of the window, it was completely dark. Sugu said, as an apology, I will prepare dinner for you and try my handiwork. He countered, that's fine. Stay like this until Sugu walks out of the room. In the room, she counterattacked and held her face, asking the master to prepare dinner for her. She was really a shameless little maid. She also allowed her master to serve her for such a long time. How could there be such a bad maid in the world? As expected, there is still a long way to go before she can become an outstanding maid like her sister. However, such a master wants to work hard to grow up. I hope my health will get better and I can at least be able to fight for my master. He counterattacked and put the hot tea he was holding next to him. At this time, his body was covered in a coat, and his hands were holding his bent legs. Some boring people say that the favorability level is 100 when you get married, and the maximum is 100 if you are not married. That is the upper limit. It's just that feelings can't be measured by data, but the statement is very interesting. I originally wanted to add one to my goodwill, but I refused to give the ring. Anyway, my goodwill is just like this, so I won't add it. Thinking this, he laughed back. On the other side, Sugu walked out of the room. At this time, I thought to myself, as of today, starting from Javelin, and then to Queen of Heaven, only the black-backed jackal has not been met yet, so I will not be considered the admiral of this garrison until I have met everyone. Thinking like this, he took 2 steps along the corridor and saw fireflies and amethyst. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 204. Standing outside the corridor, he saw 2 little girls walking side by side. At this time, Sugu called out, and then he saw Amethyst Quartz and Firefly raise their heads. Their expressions were a little strange at first, and then suddenly showed aggrieved expressions. Of course, the reason for the grievance was not the beating. Firefly was fine, and Amethyst was spanked occasionally. After all, what she said was that Tai Zhong often didn't know the situation clearly, so even if he was a clever counterattack, he would sometimes have to take action. Of course, the reason for the grievance is not because of the quarrel. Although everyone is joking and quarreling occasionally, they will never really get into a fight. And it only takes a short time for everyone to reconcile and continue to be good friends. The reason for the grievance is of course that he should be praised for bringing the admiral here. After all, although the admiral has been missing for a long time, he still misses his admiral a little. However, in the end, I did not receive praise and envy, but it turned out that I was lying. The feeling was no less than from heaven to earth. Doi was wronged and it snowed in June. At this time, Firefly rushed to Sugu with her little skirt. Amethyst was left behind on the other side, and then fell to the ground with a clatter. She looked up, and then realized that no one came to help her. Because Sugu had already reached out and hugged the firefly that was coming towards her. In fact, he missed seeing this little girl for so many days, so he just rubbed his face. Seeing that no one was helping her, Amethyst got up on her own, and then she rubbed her forehead and ran up. At this time, Firefly wrapped its arms around Sugu's neck and said, "Admiral. Where did you go?" Amethyst looked at Firefly with some envy, and then complained, "Where did the Admiral go? It made Javelin and the others think I was a liar. Could this lady be a liar? You are a bastard." Looking at Amethyst with an angry look on his face, Sugu thought to himself, "I can't do anything myself, you should say this to the Prince of Wales." Then he said perfunctorily, okay, you are the most noble lady, no one is as powerful as you. Then, Admiral, you and we can explain it clearly." Amethyst said this and was going to pull on Sugu's pants to explain. "Come with us now and tell them that I didn't lie at all for a little girl, the most aggrieved thing is false accusation. Now this incident has cast a shadow on the little girl, and she was actually laughed at and said she was lying." Thinking that he had already seen Javelin and Queen of Heaven, Sugu said, "They all already know that I have seen them, but the black-backed jackal has not seen them yet. As compensation, I will cook dinner for you. It is already so dark. It just so happens that you haven't had dinner yet." Cooking a meal to compensate many people is probably what Sugu can do. Then Sugu looked around and said, "Now there is a question, where is the kitchen?" In the kitchen, Sugu flipped through the various boxes around him. No rice? There's no way to cook without rice. For counterattacks, potatoes and fried fish were always served, so when Sugu opened the refrigerator and searched for a long time, those were the only ingredients he could see. eggs, fish, shrimp, potatoes and beef. These two are good. Potato and beef stew. No matter how you cook it, it will definitely taste better than the counter-cooked one. At this time, two little girls were walking back and forth in the kitchen, while Sugu was washing and chopping vegetables. For a long time, I thought about whether it would be a bit boring to counterattack someone there. So I told Firefly about the counterattack, and the little girl ran away from the kitchen, then ran back, and then said that the counterattack sister had fallen asleep. Now that I'm asleep, it's the best, and I don't have to worry about fighting back at someone who is bored. However, at this time, I suddenly heard a voice. Ouch! Firefly whispered, "That's the black-backed jackal." Amethyst became excited at this time, and she shouted loudly, "Black-backed jackal, come in quickly, the admiral is here." Just like that, the door was pushed open, and a little girl with slightly dark skin stood at the door. She has short gray hair and wears various accessories on her short hair, just like the kings and princesses of Egypt. Hearing Amethyst's words at this time, he walked in, a little stunned, and looked stupid. Sugu still held the pot and called out, "Black-backed jackal." "Commander, sir, Commander, Admiral." At this time, the black-backed jackal pounced on him like a puppy that hadn't seen its owner for a long time. Wait, I'm holding something." Being knocked down by a cute little girl is still very popular for men, but girls, "Don't sniff my body like a puppy, I'm not a dog bone. Also, don't lick my face." Black-backed jackal. Nodding heavily, "Yes. Admiral." What a boring answer. Circling around Sugu, but hugging his legs, the black-backed jackal said, "Where did the admiral go?" "I've always been with your sister, the prince." Saying this, Sugu thought for a while, holding the pot in one hand, and stretched out his other hand to rub the black-backed jackal's head. If she were facing an ordinary person, she would certainly not act like this, but since she is her own ship girl, it would not be good to act too indifferent, and besides, the destroyer is really awesome. At this time, the black-backed jackal blinked, feeling like a puppy. Then the black-backed jackal suddenly opened its mouth wide, made a sound of "oh," and then bit Sugu's palm. "Shake off." What? Suddenly I really want to scream like this, bite it, and feel happy." As he said this, the black-backed jackal opened his mouth. Sugu looked at the black-backed jackal. Is this little girl really a sister to Javelin and Queen? It's really hard to tell like this. However, both Javelin and Queen have been transformed, but black-backed jackal has not. I remember that after the transformation of black-backed jackal in the game, he looks much more mature. So, it's great that the black-backed jackal hasn't been transformed yet, otherwise why would he touch your head and scratch your chin? Soon after, everyone returned to their original room with their meals in hand. At this time, because there was a fire in the fireplace, the surrounding windows and doors were closed tightly, and the whole room was warm. Counterattack was what Zhen and Firefly said, and they were already asleep by the fireplace. Put the food on the only table in the room. At this time, Amethyst walked around the counterattack, then looked at the counterattack and said, "Asleep. Sister counterattack is sleeping." I touched her face. "How is it? It's so interesting. Her chest feels soft." Sugu looked at it and thought, "You are seeking death. But this little girl seems to dare to do anything. Even in history, just like the Amethyst incident in history, which was beaten to a pulp by local cannons and grenades. This also marked the end of the gunboat diplomacy of the British and other powers towards China. However, after all, we cannot compare the ship girl and the battleships in history become equal signs." Then a voice suddenly sounded. "Amethyst, you really dare." Counterattack woke up. In fact, he had woken up a long time ago. He was just resting his mind with his eyes closed. The discomfort only lasts for a period of time. The illness comes and goes like a mountain, and the illness goes away like a thread. This has never been said for a ship girl. Feeling comfortable now, she stood up and glanced at the trembling Amethyst, wanting to get up and assume her responsibilities as a maid, but Sugu waved his hand towards her. Seafood smorgasbord, try my handiwork. Well, that spoon, Firefly and the others ate it first. Various dishes were placed next to them, although some of them had been touched. He took a spoon on the side and took a spoonful of the dishes, then put it into his mouth and said with a smile, "The Admiral's craftsmanship is good." At this time, Sugu said with some pride, "My craftsmanship has always been very good." The dishes are ready. Although several little girls have already tasted them, they are definitely not full. Sugu wanted to invite everyone to eat together, but then he realized that Javelin and Queen of Heaven had not come over yet. The black-backed jackal volunteered to call Javelin and the Queen. Soon after, Javelin and the Queen came over. The Queen said, "The Admiral is actually here." Sugu responded. He was a little afraid of this Yandere girl. There was no formal dining table in the room, so it was simply an outrageous dinner. At this time, while eating, everyone said something. Javelin said, "In the past, London would occasionally come back for a visit, but this time, I haven't come back for a long time. I remember when I came back last time, I said I was showing off to everyone." After eating, everyone felt uncomfortable. It wasn't a stomachache. Even if Gan Niang eats something, she won't have a stomachache, but it tastes bad. But when I think about London, studying at the same level after studying for a long time, I feel really uncomfortable. But it's not hard to beat her, she has worked very hard. The Queen said, "It was not that cold when Sister Lin Xian left." Speaking of which, the sisters, the Shuguang goddess changed its name to Chungqing long ago, and now it should be with the Yuxian. It's a pity that Yuxian is not with us. Together, her craftsmanship is really good. In the summer, the Admiral is going to take us swimming. Actually, I'm not very good at swimming. If I don't use the ship suit, I feel like I'm going to sink into the water. If I learn the game, I'll be considered a slave by then. Even if the deep-sea ship sinks, I will swim up. Sugu said, "Don't say that, no one will sink." "Master, don't believe it, there's no way the Javelin can't swim." "Admiral, don't you want to swim with us? Don't you want to see the swimsuit?" "Honestly, I want to see it. I can sew swimsuits for everyone." "Admiral, what kind of swimsuit do you like?" "Queen, I will never be fooled again." "Firefly said you have a garrison far away." "Admiral, do you want to go back?" "Doesn't it matter if we all go there together, can I keep a cat when we get there?" "I am the greatest lady." "Amethyst, don't say anything." "Chuyunibu, I'll hit you on the head, also, leave that shrimp for me. I want to bring a gift to Xiaozai." I promised her, and Thatcher. Counting that, there are a lot of people. It's so difficult to deal with. Soon after the meal was finished, counterattack began to clear the table, and the Queen was beside him pouring black tea for everyone. Then she went out with the dishes, chopsticks, forks, and spoons she had packed away. When she came back, she had changed back into her original maid outfit and brought back a chess set. Javelin and Amethyst play chess. "Of course my soldiers can walk diagonally," Javelin said matter-of-factly. "Then I'll go too." "You committed a foul, white can't move, only black can move." Sugu sighed, "There is no such way." "Ha, Amethyst, you lose, now take off some clothes." The stripping game is great, but the little Lolita is still cuter with her clothes on. At this time, counterattack sat next to Sugu and said, "Everyone is making a lot of noise." "It's actually very good." Sugu said this and looked at the people around him. "It's like being in your own garrison, Lexington, Saratoga, In fact, everyone has various hobbies, and it is difficult to be together. Speaking of the rules of the tutelage, I had set the rules back then, at least when eating, everyone should be together. Otherwise, you eat yours and I eat mine, so deserted it doesn't look like a garrison at all. At this time, Sugu looked at Amethyst, who was bullied among all the people, and the chief culprit was Javelin. Then he looked at the noisy black-backed jackal. The unmodified black-backed jackal was short but liked to wander. The quarrel ended soon after, and then several little girls stood in front of Sugu with their hands behind their backs. "Admiral, tell us a story. I heard Firefly tell us a lot. You must have told Xiao Zai a lot before." "Okay, so what story do you want to hear?" Then Sugu started telling stories to several little girls. Change it, change it. I have to say that it is becoming more and more difficult for little girls nowadays. Fairy tales such as The Ugly Duckling and Pinocchio are no longer interested in them. This was the case in the little house back then. At first, I listened to fairy tales, but later I had to listen to the devilishly modified version of the fairy tale, or else it was a dark version of the fairy tale. All in all, it is no longer as easy to deal with as it was before. Sugu thought about it. He had never read some stories that were really suitable for little girls, such as Balala, the little demon fairy, and there were also things like Gulana, god of darkness, which he couldn't say at all. "I've seen some of My Little Pony, but there's no animation, it's just spoken, it's not magical at all. So for you, what is the story that you remember more clearly?" After a long time, Sugu coughed and said, "That's a place called Orgrimmar. Rationality and logic are all thrown away." Thal took Frostmourne and said loudly, "Garrosh, now that you have betrayed all your relatives, your rule is over." Frostmourne hit the blood roar, and the blood roar was shattered on the ground. The giant axe stained with the blood of countless enemies has turned into fragments all over the ground. It was dark all around, and all I could hear was Garrosh whispering, "Father, is everything over?" Standing next to him was Grom, that was his father. Grom knelt down and caressed Garrosh's eyes and said, "Everything is over, my child, kingship has no eternity." At this time, the story is being told in a mess. Why did Hellscream appear in front of Garrosh? Well, it's because this is the magically modified version. However, Sugu himself didn't know whether the devil's version of the story was good or bad. After a while, the black-backed jackal looked firm and said, "I will never betray the admiral. The black-backed jackal will destroy all enemies." He opened his big eyes and blinked. "Yeah, blink, that expression is eager to be touched." "Me too, I will listen to the admiral." That was what Firefly said. "It's still me, this lady is the most powerful existence. Needless to say, this is Amethyst." The Queen of Heaven and Javelin were playing tricks on each other. I don't know if they heard it or not, but Javelin also started to make noises when he heard this. "No matter what the admiral does, I will follow him, even if the whole world is my enemy." Sugu shrugged his shoulders and said, "You can't defeat the whole world, so let's talk about the Prince of Wales." Javelin slammed the table and said loudly, "Not even the Prince of Wales can do it. The admiral's position is relatively big." Sugu was lying on the rocking chair, and the chair was shaking. At this time, he was patting the back of the black jackal in his arms. Although the little girl's words are not trustworthy, they sound very pleasant. "Fight back, you haven't expressed your stance yet." "Well, I support the admiral." "Sure enough, I am the admiral." "Yes, everything in this garrison belongs to me." "Kingship is not eternal, Prince of Wales, your reign is over, and now I am the admiral of this garrison." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 205. Royal power does not last forever, and the reign of the Prince of Wales is indeed coming to an end. In fact, from the first day when Sugu helped process documents, the Prince of Wales gradually handed over the affairs of the garrison to Sugu. In the words of the Prince of Wales, "Since the Admiral is here, it is time for me to return to my identity as a ship girl and a warrior." However, what the royal power brings is not the 3,000 beauties in the harem, but endless things, which is really distressing. During this period, more and more things were being thrown into Sugu's hands, so that he had fewer and fewer opportunities to play happily with the destroyer, and one of the greatest pleasures in life was lost. In fact, there is not much going on in the small town government. Most of the documents during this period are historical relics accumulated during the period of counterattack and departure. Therefore, sometimes people have to doubt that the only thing the entire garrison does is fight back. The Prince of Wales became the shopkeeper, and Sugu was a newbie, although logically Sugu should be considered the shopkeeper. All in all, Sugu was the de facto admiral during this period, and of course he would be indispensable for counterattack. Although the counterattack always says that his sister has a great reputation, for Sugu, the counterattack is definitely no worse than anyone else. Serving tea and water is a trivial matter. Occasionally, he would bring up his pen and show a shy smile on Sugu's surprised expression. The only difficult thing to do at this time was the Prince of Wales, who was sitting on a chair not far away, with his legs crossed, a red wine glass in one hand and a cheek in the other, looking domineering. This makes people want to complain, "Sister, are you the supervisor?" Soon after, the counterattack carried out a major rectification of the town hall. In fact, Sugu did not want to rectify it, because for him, he still hoped that everyone would follow him back. Just this idea, Sugu still hasn't expressed it to the Prince of Wales. Of course, he will always speak. The Prince of Wales knows this completely, but her admiral has not spoken yet, so she is happy to continue like this. On the third to last day before the banquet, Sugu saw counterattack applying new paint to the yacht at the beach. Sugu sat on the stilt beside the pier and said, "There's no need to paint it just for a banquet. This is not a special painting for the banquet. The admiral will have to go back. By then, the entire possessions of the town will be loaded on this yacht. People rely on clothes, horses, and saddles. As the face of our town, we can't just let it go." Sugu nodded and said, "That's right." Saying this, he stretched out his hand towards the counterattack, wanting to do it for the counterattack. How could counterattack, who was working hard as an excellent maid, leave the matter to Sugu? At this time, counterattack held the brush, smiled, and said, "Instead of doing this, Master, why not practice dancing with the Prince of Wales?" I wanted to call her out, but seeing the domineering look on her face, I couldn't really shout out. "But she is your wedding ship." Sugu nodded and said, "I know. You are so difficult to deal with, so why don't I fight back and come to accompany you, but that would be like a mistress." Having said that, by the end of the conversation, counterattack was still painting the yacht, and Sugu went back to invite the Prince of Wales. However, the Prince of Wales waved his hand and said, "It doesn't matter what the ball is." Sugushan agreed with this, and after thinking about it, he gave up, thinking that he could just sneak in when the time came. But in the afternoon, Sugu saw counterattack wearing a skirt to come to him, looking attentive. He couldn't say that he and the Prince of Wales had reached a consensus, so the two practiced for a while. Then the next day, Sugu saw counterattack rubbing her feet, and then heard counterattack whispering that the Prince of Wales asked her to practice with him for half a night. Speechless. In this way, in mid to late February, a few little destroyer girls were left in the garrison, and the ship was launched by counterattack. Then the three of them set off towards the garrison where the inviter of the banquet was invited. "My secretaryship has now become your little maid." The Prince of Wales stood on the deck of the yacht. His hair was not pinned to the sides, but tied up into a bun on his head, like a noble and proud queen. Although she was wearing a long purple skirt underneath, she was just wearing a large winter coat to wrap her whole body. Although the Prince of Wales is considered a wedding ship, in fact, most of the time in the past few days, he has been accompanying Sugu. Counting this way, it is indeed like being a counter-attack and becoming Sugu's little maid and follower. It is not surprising. The Prince of Wales said so. Then she tucked a piece of her bangs behind her ears and said, "You attended the Queen's tea party a few days ago. How did you feel?" "Fine." Sugu shrugged. The Queen's tea-making skills were average. But compared with this, what is more difficult to deal with is that when facing this Yandere girl, she is always afraid of exposing her thoughts again, so she has to carefully consider everything she says. Even so, you will still be lied to. I've been here for many days. How do you feel about this garrison? Now the Prince of Wales is gradually talking more, and it's much better than when we first met. It's very good. The town hall is very good and the location is also very good. Everyone is very nice. So how does it feel compared to the garrison in Lexington? What is the townhouse of Lexington? It's obviously my garrison. That's it? I didn't stay there for a few days before coming over. I saw you and counterattack practicing dance. How is your practice so far? It's okay, it shouldn't be too embarrassing. By the way, when are you going to give me the counterattack ring? Cough cough cough. She didn't pay much attention to Sugu's cough. Then she looked into the distance and said, "We're almost there." There, that is, the garrison of the destination. On the other side, as the host of this banquet, the admiral named Xie Wenjin is an Easterner. Judging from his appearance alone, he looks a little out of place with the blonde and blue-eyed admirals around him. At this time, he was wearing a white military uniform and standing on the balcony of the second floor with his friends. The balcony is very beautiful, with beautiful iron trees and solid wood railings. Standing on the balcony and looking towards the sea, the view is very good, and you can clearly see the pier outside the governor's mansion. He just said hello to the admiral who had been invited, and led him into the hall of the town hall, where he gathered with the admiral who had come earlier. Then he said a few words casually, and then returned here while he was free. Here, with his own best friend, there was something he wanted to say. At this time, he opened his mouth and said, "Zaman, is your head really clamped?" Looking out, there are various yachts parked on the pier, and even large ships, which are the means of transportation for some admirals. Are you planning to see the Prince of Wales here again? I have already told you that battleships rarely appear in the world, let alone a battleship as powerful as the Prince of Wales. Such battleships are often proud, and you want to capture her. It is impossible to do it. Although as an admiral, he always talks about fishing and fishing, but like the powerful ship girls in the ship girl headquarters, no one has seen anyone fishing. After all, those powerful battleships have their own proud, it's too difficult and thankless to fish them out. When Xie Wenjin said these words, he didn't know if his friend could hear a few words. He then patted his friend on the shoulder and said, "No matter what, I provide you with a chance. This time I said she is coming, but I can't help you with the details." He had no choice but to deal with his friend who had his forehead pinched. He wanted to pursue the Prince of Wales, but nothing could be that easy. In fact, the Prince of Wales has been here for so long, and there are so many admirals who want to fish her out. However, everyone is frustrated and have basically given up now, but only his friend is still persisting. In this aspect, sometimes I really don't know whether this is a good or bad aspect. On the other side, he was also wearing a white admiral's uniform, with a light stubble on his chin, a knife-like face, and a hard look. If an outsider took just one look, they would probably guess where he was a soldier. However, it is such a person who has a nickname that is completely different from his appearance, called Zaman. At this time, Zaman said, "It's difficult to catch the Prince of Wales. I know this, but I always want to try. It's like pursuing a girl. If you don't have the spirit of persistence, You can't even think of catching him. Ship, the same goes for my mother. I don't have any ill intentions. I really admire her. When a man pursues a woman, it's an honest matter for an admiral to pursue a ship's mother. If she doesn't like me, then reject her. If I like her, then I'll pursue her. It's not a big deal. I neither threatened nor coerced. You always say that my head was caught in the door, and it was caught. But it's like the instructor before. Although he beat me up, now that I'm back in the academy, among so many people, she is the only one remember me clearly. I talked to her a lot, and she said she was very impressed with me, and maybe I can pick her up one day. It's funny to say that I was caught in the door, but is it true? After thinking about it, I have indeed taken the first step. The first person to eat crabs, the first person to fish out a boat, always has to be the first person. She's such a powerful ship girl, like the Prince of Wales. I fell in love with her the first time I met her. It's a battleship, a battleship. She's very beautiful and has an explosive figure. I admit that I just like her, but how dare you say you don't like it? Xie Wenjin, you are just hypocritical. When I first saw her, she sank the deep-sea battleship with one shot. The sea breeze blew her long hair up, and the ship girl called Counterattack stood beside her. She wore looking back with a blindfold. I fell in love with her at that time. I invited them to come to my townhouse and serve black tea. She said she didn't like black tea, but liked red wine. Then I watched her drink the red wine in one gulp, cool and bold. I was thinking, if she is not a ship girl, then we will definitely become good friends, just like you and me now. But she is a ship girl, and I want to pick her up. I asked her if she had an admiral, and she said yes. I was a little disappointed. But I would not attack a ship girl who has an admiral. This is a rule that everyone abides by, unless the admiral goes too far. We have only known each other for a long time, and I have never seen her admiral. Then I asked her, and she had no taboos. She said that her admiral had disappeared, and then she came out. Missing. Is he dead? I don't know. But no matter what happened, it was so long she didn't come back in time, and something did happen to her. I think she can be considered a masterless ship girl now. It was very difficult for her to be alone, and I wanted to help her. She said that she was her admiral's wedding ship. Even if she got married, I told her that I didn't care. She said that she cared, even if she died and disappeared, she would not care. I have to keep the rules for him. That's an Eastern word, keep the rules. When I heard this, I liked it even more. You know, ship girls are a bit stubborn. However, I don't want to give up. I want to pick her up, no matter how much it takes. How much time? For such a long time, she has never had much communication with any male. I am called Zaman by you. Zaman is Zaman. If my head is pinched, my head will be pinched. I always have a temper that refuses to admit defeat. Inside, I believe in myself and the Prince of Wales. I put my words down here. Even if I can't catch her, no one else can try to catch her. And if anyone can really catch her, then it's me. They were standing on the balcony talking, and at this time another boat approached outside the town hall. Regarding his friend, who graduated from college and ran from the east to the west together, Xie Wenjin smiled helplessly and said, "You are standing here just to take a look at her? I don't want to say anything about you anymore. I just want to tell you, the wind blows woke up, cold. Also, the Prince of Wales, she probably came back with a counterattack. But I heard that the counterattack left for a long time, and she still hasn't come back, so it's not too clear. I wonder who she came with? She might come alone. You have said so much and don't want to give up. I support it. You have a chance today, work hard, but now, someone is here, and I want to greet someone. Just leave first." Saying this, he wanted to go down to greet them. After all, people were here now, and as the owner here, he wanted to entertain them. However, just as he was about to leave at this time, he suddenly found that the ship coming over at this time was somewhat familiar. At this time, the first person to get off the ship was wearing a maid outfit. Although they were far away, they still recognized it as the ship girl called Counterattack. Then I saw a blonde figure walking down. It was the Prince of Wales. She was not wearing men's clothes as usual, but was wearing a winter coat and her long hair was tied into a bun. She was indeed a very beautiful woman. Xie Wenjin patted Zaman on the shoulder and said, "Now it's your turn to greet her." This time she came here wearing women's clothes. You probably have a chance. Don't let me down. Zaman lowered the brim of his hat and smiled at his friend's teasing. He didn't want to refuse at this time. He said, "Let me tell you, as long as you keep working hard, you will always have a chance. The Prince of Wales came here wearing women's clothes. I wish she could take my arm." However, at this time, within the sight of the two of them, another person walked out of the ship. The two of them were a little confused. Remembering the Prince of Wales's garrison, there should be no other adults except the Prince of Wales and Counterattack. But that's not a very important person. After all, it's possible who might hitch a ride. At this time, the man who got off the ship was wearing an admiral's uniform like them, and then they saw the Prince of Wales holding the man's arm. At this time, the two people standing on the balcony suddenly had strange expressions. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 206. If there is anything embarrassing, it is that we were talking about beautiful women just now, and there could be no other man except myself. Then he saw a beautiful woman appear with a man, which was definitely something to do, especially when she was bragging to her friends. At this moment, they were still talking about how no one could pursue the Prince of Wales, and he wanted to be the first to eat crabs, but he immediately saw the other party walking over with a man's arm in his arms. When his friend Xie Wenjin patted him on the shoulder, Zaman could only smile awkwardly. The eloquent talk just now was like a slap in the face. At this time, Xie Wenjin said, "They may have just met on the road and dropped by. Zaman is not a child. On the contrary, he is thoughtful." He said, "Meet him. Do you know that person? Did you give him an invitation?" Xie Wenjin shook his head and said, "I don't know him, and I haven't given him an invitation." In this case, he must have appeared as the male companion of the Prince of Wales. If he was not the male companion, how could the Prince of Wales hold his arm in women's clothing? And a ship girl would not have any men she is really close to except her own admiral. Friend. That man is here as the Prince of Wales's best man and admiral, otherwise the Prince of Wales will just come back with a counterattack. Seeing the increasingly ugly expression on his friend's face, Xie Wenjin thought for a while and said quickly, "Even if it's an admiral, he probably found someone to pretend to be his admiral because he was afraid of trouble. This kind of thing has never happened before. To avoid the endless pursuit, then find someone to be your shield." Zaman remained silent, and then Xie Wenjin continued, "When we were in school, didn't something like this happen to us? In order to avoid being pursued, the beautiful girl in the class randomly found someone to act as a shield and pretend to be her boyfriend. Everyone didn't know much about it at first. They just thought that the boy was lucky. But when we saw them breaking up immediately after graduation, we didn't think that such a thing would happen. Later, they were no longer together, and then this happened. It just ended like this." Hearing his friend's comforting words, Zaman frowned. This possibility is not impossible, and this statement is even considered a normal situation. Thinking about it this way, Zayman's face feels better. Speaking of which, the former Prince of Wales always dressed up as a man in men's clothes even when attending banquets, and then appeared with a counter-attack in a long skirt. Banquets were often accompanied by balls, but at the ball she would dance with him and then sit next to him. At this time, any invitation would be rejected, saying that it looked like two men dancing. Does wearing men's clothing make you a man? Anyone who thinks the Prince of Wales is a man is probably blind. It's not a malicious curse. With such an explosive figure, if you can still think of him as a man, then it's really over. Zayman felt a little better, and they walked along the stairs from the balcony on the second floor to the lobby on the first floor. Then Xie tugged on his tie, opened the narrow door, and said, "They are coming, let's go say hello together." Saying this, they tried to walk through the hall to the door. The hall on the first floor was full of people. As the host of this banquet, Xie communicated extensively, and all the admirals from the nearby garrison were invited. Generally speaking, counties close to the seaside will definitely have a garrison, and even some towns and important shipping routes will have one, so there were many admirals who were invited by Xie and gathered here. Since there are many admirals, and ship girls have always been an indispensable presence around admirals, there are also many ship girls at this time. There are tall and plump mature women, probably some battleships, battle cruisers, or aircraft carriers. After all, as an admiral, what is the difference between not showing off the ship and being a salted fish? Although it is a bit reluctant to let these ship girls attack in general, the banquet must be brought out. This does not consume resources, right? Of course, there were also short girls and little girls, and most of the admirals with such little girls gathered together to hug each other for warmth. If you get close to them at this time, you can probably hear such words. The heavy cruiser Kaohsiung was built a few days ago. I built Prince Eugen. The heavy cruiser Prince Eugen is considered a golden 5-star ship. You two are so nice. Yes or no, please get a business card for everyone. Would you like some rabbits today? Our club is here to recruit people. All in all, everyone at the banquet seemed to be clearly divided at this time. The Prince of Wales wore a purple dress with high heels, and his hair was tied into a bun, exposing his slender neck, like a proud swan. At this time, she was holding Sugu's arm. Although Sugu has been here for many days, the two of them have never made such an intimate gesture. In fact, both of them are a little uncomfortable with it. The two of them stood in front and walked. Counterattack, who was walking behind, held the winter coat that the Prince of Wales had taken off. She always played the role of a maid, and this time she came in a maid outfit. Sugu was not familiar with the people here. At this time, the Prince of Wales introduced, the tallest man there, the Admiral of the Hornby Guard House, has been the Admiral for more than 20 years. Have you seen that woman? She is also an Admiral, and her husband is also an Admiral, but it seems that her husband did not come this time. The girl next to her is her daughter, and she is just an ordinary person now. I heard that she wants to take her own life now. My daughter was raised to be an admiral, so she always takes her with her, but her husband wants her to marry and have children as an ordinary person. The man standing next to the table is an important local government official. I don't know how he got here. He looks very young. He can climb to such a position at his age. He is a person who climbs up and does whatever it takes to achieve political success. He is a great person, knowledgeable and eloquent. The two were talking at this time, and then they saw two people wearing white admiral uniforms walking over. The admiral in front is called Xie Wenjin. He mainly manages the waters near the Fini Strait. He has some ship girls under his command and their combat effectiveness is also very good. I have dealt with him several times, and he is the one who invited us here this time. The guy at the back, I don't quite remember his name, his nickname is Zayman. He's the most troublesome guy, he's just putting on an act. The Prince of Wales briefly introduced their identities to Sugu. Then Sugu saw the admiral named Zaman walking over first, then waved his arm and said, "Prince of Wales, you came here and you didn't even say a word to me. Do I need to tell you that I'm here?" She was always polite when speaking. Zaman shrugged his shoulders, laughed at himself, and then turned to look at Sugu, who was standing next to the Prince of Wales. Although I felt uneasy at this time, I thought it was just the Prince of Wales who randomly found someone from outside to pretend to be the admiral. However, the Prince of Wales probably didn't bother to think of such an idea, so he looked at the people following him, wearing a maid outfit to fight back. It must have been an idea to fight back. "Hello. Zaman, everyone calls me Zaman. Brother, I haven't met you before. Where did you graduate?" He doesn't like too polite communication. Although he looks serious and resolute, his temperament is out of control, otherwise he wouldn't be able to do it. Confessing to his instructor, he was a little uncomfortable with someone he was familiar with, but Sugu still said, "Chuanqiu. I am also a graduate of Chuangziu and a student of instructor Nelson." What a coincidence. Instructor Zeppelin's student. A friend of the Prince of Wales. Her admiral. The admiral of the Prince of Wales? How do you know him? He felt more and more uneasy, so some of his words seemed a little impatient. How did you meet the Prince of Wales? In fact, Sugu was also a little confused. However, he vaguely remembered that in the game, his Prince of Wales was salvaged. That scene still leaves a bit of an impression. There is no way to build the Prince of Wales in the game, but when the level reaches a certain level, it will be given to you. Then, seeing that he was almost at the right level to get the Prince of Wales, a golden light suddenly flashed. You must be very surprised that you and I met in this situation. But things are always so incredible and unpredictable. This is the line in which the Prince of Wales appears. I was about to give the game away, but suddenly I got it. Coupled with this unexpectedly appropriate line, I really don't know how to describe the bloody feeling, so I remember it clearly now. Sugu said, "It's considered salvage." Zaman curled his lips and thought, is it really fake, construction or salvage? It actually takes so long to think about such a question. Salvage, brother is really good at salvaging it in such a short time. No, I've known each other before. Guigang. Checking the household registration, thinking about it, Sugu reported a number. You are so young and promising. Zaman smiled like this, feeling even more disbelieving in his heart. I remember that the Prince of Wales and the Repulse, including many ship girls, all belong to the same admiral. If you say new acquaintance, there is still some possibility. If you say we have known each other before, he was the admiral of the Prince of Wales. In other words, he was the admiral of many ship girls. It's not like the admiral didn't have good luck, he managed to get so many ship girls in a short period of time. But another point is that the Prince of Wales and Counterattack are both such powerful ship girls. Even if they were built and salvaged very early, it would take many years to train the Prince of Wales to be as powerful as it is now. How is this possible at such a young age? I heard that the Prince of Wales used to be on the wedding ship, and you are husband and wife. It doesn't look like much. From an outsider's perspective, Sugu and the Prince of Wales really don't look like a couple. Having already made up his mind, Zaman burst out laughing. He turned to look at the Prince of Wales and said, "Prince of Wales, your friend is really interesting." The Prince of Wales was originally communicating with Xie Wenjin. Hearing Zaman's words, he turned his head, then looked at Sugu with a questioning tone and said, "What did you say? How did we become friends? I'm not yours wedding ship." Sugu was a little innocent. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 207. He came up to say hello inexplicably, and then left inexplicably. In the end, Zaman left with an awkward smile. Sugu didn't pay much attention to it. In fact, he didn't know the other party's purpose at all. The Prince of Wales didn't like to talk about these things, but later came back to explain his confusion. That one is called the Admiral of the Narrow Gate. Every time the Prince of Wales arrives, he will rush there no matter how far away he is. He wants to fish the Prince of Wales out, and he has said so bluntly, and has been working towards this goal. Sugu frowned, thought for a moment and said, "Then if he comes this time." Counterattack nodded, and then said, "Prince of Wales, she usually wears men's clothes to attend banquets, and then I wore a skirt as her female companion. Because you came over, the Prince of Wales will certainly not be the same as before. This time, the Prince of Wales wearing women's clothes, you are her male companion, narrow gate, he will probably feel a little strange, and he probably wants to ask specifically when he comes here this time. For example, who are you? What is your relationship with the Prince of Wales?" Sugu's expression became strange and he said, "Then he suddenly discovered that I am the Admiral of the Prince of Wales, the Prince of Wales is my wedding ship, and we are husband and wife. So he just, well, I saw his face turned into a pig liver color. It's probably embarrassing and a bit pitiful. Watching people clinking glasses with people in the distance, Sugu, nicknamed the Admiral of the Narrow Gate, said with malice, but it feels a little good, and, what a pity, the Prince of Wales is my wedding ship. Siang, my wedding ship was shot, and I am the one who should be pitied. He came here this time, well, he deserves to die." Counterattack nodded beside her. She is a good maid and agrees with all the master's decisions. Coming through the narrow gate is just an episode after all, and enjoying the dinner is what everyone should do. The hall here is well decorated for the banquet, and both the lighting and music are excellent. The dance has not started yet. There are long tables in the hall, and various kinds of food are placed on the long tables. Of course, the food can be taken at will, just like a buffet. At this time, whether there is less food or wine, it can be replenished immediately. The dishes are basically Chinese and Western, with a variety of dishes, but the most popular ones are seafood. In addition, there is no shortage of various fruits, although they are all ordinary fruits. Sugu walked through the hall with the pastries on the plate. People around him were talking, and he heard only a few words. Then he saw the counterattack and said, "For this banquet, we specially invited chefs from well-known restaurants in the nearby city, but that's right, after all, no matter how powerful the ship girl in his garrison is, it would be very difficult to hold such a large banquet." Trouble. On the sofa by the floor-to-ceiling window, the Prince of Wales was holding red wine and was silent, but Sugu he kept talking. "It should be more expensive to hold a banquet like this." Counterattack, "Have you ever held a banquet?" He shook his head and said, "Of course not. I guess so. No one likes to eat potatoes and salted fish. Master, if you say anything again, I will take action even if you are the master." Probably influenced by Sugu's cooking skills, she now fights back and forbids others from talking about her cooking skills. As we talked like this, the topic of food, wine, and soon came to the topic of ship girls. Then Sugu pointed to the small girl in the crowd, holding the food above her head, and said, "That ship girl is so short, she must be a destroyer. Maybe it's Veneto, maybe it's Andrea, it's probably not Andrea." Sugu nodded, "Maybe if they were so short, then do you know what model she is?" "Have no idea." "That's a lot to say." His eyes turned to another direction, and that was the ship girl who looked like a high school student in a white skirt. She was hesitating between biscuits and cookies, and finally chose lobster. Sugu said, "That one looks like a high school student, probably a light cruiser." "Oh, I know that one, it's a heavy cruiser." "Do you know her?" "What model is she?" "Heavy cruiser Kumino." For Sugu, there was no familiar person in the entire banquet. He would be taking everyone out of here soon, and he didn't have much interest in interacting with people. At this time, his eyes moved around in the crowd, and finally stopped in front of a girl wearing a red scarf. Although his previous guesses failed, Sugu still said, "That must be a destroyer." Counterattack looked at it, and then said, "Although it is a destroyer, it is a destroyer that drugged its own admiral. It is very powerful." "I can't tell, you're a gossip, what kind of medicine did you give me?" "Master, aren't you also very gossipy, what kind of medicine, that kind of medicine, medicine that can only be understood but cannot be expressed in words. So powerful, then her admiral will go to the military police, also, was it successful?" "It was because her admiral went to the military police that we found out about this matter. It was really bold. I heard that she and her admiral are now married. Even if she is a destroyer, a very powerful destroyer, you said it failed, I don't know." "Master, what are your messy thoughts? For a ship girl, spiritual marriage is more important than physical marriage. Even if you are married, you may not be able to do anything. But it's all drugged, and it's a spiritual marriage. That girl, even though she was a destroyer, actually looked like a junior high school student, although she was still a little immature." Sugu remembered his classmates, including girls who gave birth to children right after graduating from junior high school. "Now that I think about it, although he is a bit weird, the junior high school student destroyer is so good that people can envy him." Then Sugu looked at a tall, plump mature woman. The ship girl had lips full of temptation. Sugu said, "Which one is that? It looks like a battleship or a battle cruiser. She looks quite European." "That ship girl, I remember it was her admiral who wore women's clothing to build her. Her admiral's name seems to be some kind of boat, I can't remember clearly. It turned out to be a boss in cross-dressing." Sugu had heard from his friends before that some admirals would not hesitate to dress up as women for the sake of powerful ship girls. But even though he wore women's clothing, he built a battleship, which was not a loss. Moreover, it must have opened the door to a new world where women's clothing is nothing to be ashamed of. Sugu he said this in counterattack, and then someone came over to say hello, and Sugu responded quickly. Because of the relationship with the Prince of Wales, to be honest, Sugu is indeed receiving a lot of attention now. After all, the Prince of Wales was such a powerful battleship, and had never had much communication with any male before. Countless admirals wanted to pick her up, but they all failed. No matter who he is, whether he is a handsome, gentle, or wealthy admiral, no admiral can have any intimate relationship with the Prince of Wales. However, under such circumstances, there was no news a few days ago, and suddenly it was said that there was an admiral, and it was the other party's wedding ship. For most people, the first thing that comes to mind is absurdity, and then they want to verify the authenticity. But it would be a bit impolite to speak directly. For most people, just remember this person. Attention is also sight. At this time, everyone has his own circle at the banquet. Who and whom are preparing to form a joint fleet to suppress the deep-sea ship girls somewhere? Who is going to conduct an exercise with whom? So-and-so hasn't come over yet because of something. Or what new policies are there at the Kanyang headquarters? There are also people chatting randomly, talking about rumors, cosmetics, weapons, where the war is going on, and what will happen to the world structure. Occasionally people come over to Sugu, and most of the time they just say hello and introduce each other. Soon after, Zaman came over. He was no longer so aggressive and became much more polite. Then he said a few words and left, as if what happened had nothing to do with him. As the banquet was almost progressing, the dance started. Sugu danced a waltz with the Prince of Wales, but the two were of similar skill and bumped into each other while dancing. However, the contact with the Prince of Wales made Sugu feel a little distraught. Whether it was his breasts or waist, the Prince of Wales' figure was really explosive. He danced a song with the Prince of Wales, and then continued to sit on the sofa by the floor-to-ceiling window. Sugu reached out to Sugu, but Sugu shook his head. Then someone came to invite the Prince of Wales, but as usual they were all rejected. Soon after, the Prince of Wales ran out of the hall, followed by Sugu. Inside the hall, the narrow door has actually been paying attention to the Prince of Wales. At this time, he saw Sugu and the Prince of Wales walking out of the hall. He stretched out his hand to hold his friend Siewenjin and pointed outside. "Hush, let's sneak over and listen to what they want to say. Whether they are related or not, we will definitely be able to discover their secrets." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 208. Sugu didn't like banquets too much, especially when there were a lot of strangers in them. The Prince of Wales was of the same character, scornful of banquets and endless invitations. At this time, the dance started, and the atmosphere was very lively. The Prince of Wales left the dimly lit hall, and Sugu followed him out. Siewenjin's Tudlari mansion is higher than the sea level, just like the layout of most Tudlari mansions. The place where the Tudlari mansion lives is several meters above the sea level. At this time, there was a large platform outside the hall, planted with trees, benches, and railings built on the edge of the platform. Looking at the sea, the Prince of Wales's legs were half a meter away from the railing, his hands were resting on the railing, and his breasts and buttocks formed an attractive line. At this time, the two people were standing outside, rarely talking. After all, when they were in the guardhouse, all kinds of little girls were clinging to Sugu's side, and they had no time to pay attention to him. At this time, I was chatting with the Prince of Wales. In fact, most of the chat was about trivial matters. Whether you are an admiral or an ordinary person, big things cannot happen around you every day. Life is just a lot of small things put together. When I talked to the Prince of Wales about working in a small county town at the beginning, and about meeting a small house in an abandoned townhouse, I have actually already said many of these things. After listening to Sugu's words, the Prince of Wales told the story of the London and the Lynxian for a while, and then Sugu told the story of the Lexington. It's rare to see so many ship girls here. I think of my garrison, and I haven't counted how long it has been since I left there, but I miss them a little. Lexington has worked many jobs, from finance to clerk. When I found her, she was in Gishan, a city called Gishan, where there are many osmanthus trees. By October, all the osmanthus flowers bloom together. If so, the whole street will be filled with the fragrance of osmanthus. It is a very unique city and also a tourist city. If there is a chance, we can go together. Because it was inland, and many people there didn't know about the ship girl. Even if they knew, it was limited to those who often read newspapers, mostly veteran cotters. Lexington, well, she was still there at that time. There was a name called Shen Yun. There were many people pursuing her. When I went there, I happened to meet one, how should I say, at that time Lexington was about to resign, so I followed him there. The boss of the company was also there, and he was also a suitor of Lexington. He asked me, what were I doing there? I said to wait for Lexington, and then he kept talking to me. He said that he and Lexington were very familiar with each other, and they were good friends. He talked a lot, maybe we will become a couple in the future, and even said he would help me introduce jobs. Then Xiaozhe felt annoyed, and then she said to me, Dad, when will Mom come out? At that time, I saw the boss's face turned pale. When she came out of Lexington, Xiaozhe called her mom. I don't know why they were so connected, and then Lexington hugged Xiaozhe and told me, who is the father of the child, and so on. That scene was very, very funny. Saratoga was in middle school and was very promiscuous. I don't know if you know it, but she likes to keep a straight face in front of unfamiliar people, just like iceberg beauties. Generally speaking, iceberg beauties are not all supposed to be that kind of girl. Great people, for example, have great grades, and generally speaking, they are the kind of people who follow rigid rules. But Saratoga, she likes to skip classes, her grades are not good, and she also says that she likes her brother-in-law, who is very unhappy anyway. Yes. I guess the students' faith in their school has collapsed. At this time Sugu was talking to the Prince of Wales. Zaman and Siewenjin had already walked to a place not far from Sugu and the Prince of Wales. Siewenjin was familiar with this place. Then they walked to a place with good sight and easy to be ignored. Faint sounds could even be heard here. Siewenjin said, "Is it okay to do something like this? I still don't believe that their relationship is that of husband and wife. The man named Sugu is too young. But eavesdropping, what if it's a very private matter? It feels like we're quite insincere. If there is privacy, let's go." Being able to talk about privacy means that their relationship is very close. The relationship of eavesdropping is, well, I saw that they are not very close. I even think that counterattack is his wedding ship. Really, there is no way to accept such a thing. The Prince of Wales suddenly has an admiral. Well, otherwise you can go back, I really don't want to give up like this. Then Zaman raised his hand and whispered, "Swear not to tell anyone." "But you and I heard you." After a long silence, Zaman said, "I'm sorry." Then the two of them closed their mouths and listened. As for whether someone was near him, he didn't pay attention or care. After talking about Saratoga, Sugu asked the Prince of Wales, "Bismarck, I heard they said that you and Bismarck have conflicts." "There is no conflict, not really a conflict. It's just that Bazai was too unconscious at that time and said a few words to her. Bismarck was just protecting his sister." Sugu said, "That's it. Speaking of Bismarck, you established a garrison, but Bismarck became a shipgirl mercenary. When he found her, she had become a legendary mercenary. There is a particularly powerful name, called the Black Ghost. But she is not black at all, her hair is silver gray, her skin is also very good, fair and smooth, and she is particularly handsome when wearing a military uniform. Well, probably because she always wears a black military uniform, she is called the Black Ghost. When Lexington talked to me about Bismarck in private, he sometimes called her Cat, which is actually the same thing. There is a photo, but I can't get it. If I can get it, I can show it to you. Bismarck wearing an open-chested sweater. Even if you look at the photo, it looks like a cat." Squatting quietly next to him and vaguely hearing a few words, Siewenjin whispered to Zaman, "Are they talking about Bismarck?" Zaman nodded. Siewenjin said in a surprised tone, "You heard me right, that man, he actually has Bismarck as his ship's wife, he also has the Prince of Wales and Bismarck, it's just chaos." "It's not bragging, but with what's the point of bragging? It seems that the Prince of Wales also knows that Bismarck. They actually know the temperament of the Prince of Wales, and the character of a ship girl can probably be judged based on the type of ship. There are so many ship girls in the world, but it seems that except for the South Dakota, there is no ship girl who likes to brag." Zaman whispered, "Bismarck? What Bismarck? There can be several Bismarcks in the world. Speaking of the Black Ghost, I know that it is a legendary ship girl mercenary. Rumors about her are that she can sink the enemy's flagship with one shot. She used to wander around the world, and there have been a few here. I heard about the experience of this mission, and it is said that it has not appeared during this period of time. If the legendary mercenary Bismarck and the Prince of Wales are friends, it is credible, and they have equal abilities. Although Bismarck and the Prince of Wales generally do not deal with each other, it's not impossible to learn from each other and feel sympathy for each other." Siewenjin said this, and then Zaman also said, "I have also heard about Bismarck. He travels around the world to find something. In the past, we didn't know what we were looking for. Now, are we looking for someone? Looking for ourselves. Admiral, I looked for that man and found him, so he didn't show up again, which is a little ridiculous." Saying this, the two people looked at each other. On the other side, Sugu and the Prince of Wales continued to talk. "Speaking of Bizai, do you know? I owe Leipzig a salary without paying it, and I actually give it to someone else. It's just random. Think about it. It seems that I haven't paid Leipzig a salary now, and it seems like it's £0.50. Bizai knows how to read books all day long, but I don't have any intuition yet. I can never stand when I can sit, and I never sit when I can lie down. Anyway, it's how comfortable it comes. I don't know how many people's knee pillows I have slept on. Mine is Lexington's, Saratoga's, Bismarck's. She even used Xiaozai as a pillow. The scene was particularly funny. Xiaozai was pinned under her and struggled all the time, but in the end she was unable to resist. Bizai would not usually bully others, but they just like to bully Xiaozai. Sugu said this and smiled, and the Prince of Wales also pursed his lips and smiled. Not far from them, Xie Wenjin said, "Who is Xiaozai? I have never heard of it. I don't know who Xiaozai is, but Bizai must be the battleship Tirpitz." Tirpitz, that is Bismarck's sister in the North House, of course everyone knows this. But even if it is Tirpitz, count how many Tirpitz there are in this world. When talking about Tirpitz, that man was still smiling bitterly. "What a bastard, I don't know, a beast. Generally speaking, no matter which garrison built the Bizai, I don't know how much I love it every day. I hold it in my hands for fear of falling, and hold it in my mouth for fear of melting. That's the North House, the battleship Tirpitz." The sea breeze started to blow, and the Prince of Wales looked at Sugu, and then said, "I was still in contact with Hood and the others in the past. The Hood is my predecessor, and I have always respected her. There has always been correspondence between counterattack and Reputation, but we went to various places, and then we sent a letter to Reputation, but it suddenly disappeared. It seemed that there was no one at that address. Later, we didn't receive the letter. After thinking about it, we both happened to move, and no one could find the other. So we contacted It's Disconnected like this. I heard that Hood has opened a big company. If he opens a company, he probably won't appear as a ship girl, and it won't be called Hood and have a reputation. The world is so big, and the company they run is not a real super company. Everyone knows it as long as they mention it. It is probably just famous in the local city, although even so, it should be very rich. There are so many cities, so it shouldn't be easy to find them." Regarding the matter of Hood and Reputation, Sugu heard from Lexington and said at this time, "The news I got is probably newer than yours. Lexington told me that the company run by Hood is very big. She seems to have heard that the Glory said, the Glory was the battle cruiser they had met once before. Glory, of course I know." Hearing the vague conversation between Sugu and the Prince of Wales about Hood, Reputation, and Glory, Xie Wenjin looked at Sugu and whispered, "That beast, Seal. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 209. Sugu and the Prince of Wales were talking, and no one paid too much attention to their surroundings. After all, he didn't say anything important, and it didn't matter if someone overheard him, so it wasn't clear that Zaman and Xie Wenjin were eavesdropping. At this time, the music in the hall came out, and you could hear the sound of the record player standing outside. Soon after, the sound of the record player was replaced by the sound of a piano. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows from the outside, you could see a woman with long hair wearing a long white dress sitting at the piano in the corner of the hall. Her back was quite graceful. At this time, he and Wales talked a lot about the past, which was quite normal for the two of them. Of course, they didn't know how much trouble such words would cause to the eavesdroppers. A lot of things were said and a lot of time was spent. The dance in the hall was already at its most enthusiastic. Then Sugu suggested that the two of them go back. At this time, they suddenly saw counterattack coming over. The counterattack in maid uniform can be said to be the most unique person at this banquet. After all, there are only a few ship girls who are obsessed with maids, and the others like the Deutschland and the Reliance are just guest appearances, so how many counterattacks and reputations will there be in the entire world? Not many. At this time, Sugu knew it was his ship girl's counterattack when he saw the maid outfit. Counterattack came over and waved to Sugu. While waving, he held up something in his hand. Then he got closer and closer, and Sugu realized that it was a camera. He countered, "I saw the camera on the yacht. You were not interested in the dance, so I went to the yacht and brought the camera over. Remember, I have never taken pictures before. Prince of Wales and the owner, let's take a few pictures together, take photos." Sugu asked in confusion, "Why did you think of taking photos? It's like Leipzig originally had a camera, but until now he really hasn't remembered who to take photos with. If you suddenly disappear again, then everyone will at least have nostalgia and memories. Unlike when you disappeared like before, everyone doesn't even have a photo of you. If you don't see you, it's hard to even remember your appearance. Stand up." Upon hearing the retort, Sugu smiled bitterly and said, "It won't be like this anymore." Sugu was still very interested in taking pictures, and then he turned to look at the Prince of Wales, who had no objection. Sugu nodded. Since the Prince of Wales had no objection, he must have agreed. This is the experience he gained from spending so long with the Prince of Wales. "What should I take pictures of?" Saying this, he actually has no experience in taking good-looking photos. Sugu was still hesitating, but he had already thought of a way to counterattack for him. "That's it, just take some pictures. Master, master, come closer to the Prince of Wales." Sugu moved his steps. "Smile. Keep your eyes open. Where's Scissorhands? I'll say 1, 2, 3, and then you guys will shout eggplant together." Of course at first they stood next to each other seriously, and then took a few photos like this. Then he counterattacked but was a little dissatisfied with this scene. He waved to the two people, then looked at the Prince of Wales and said, "Well, Prince of Wales, I think it would be better if you let your hair down. It will look prettier." The Prince of Wales, with his long hair tied into a bun, looks noble and proud, but it is not an award ceremony, opening ceremony, or discussion meeting at this time. Taking ordinary photos at this time, being too noble and cool always seems a bit inappropriate. Sugu said, "Don't make random comments." He knew that the Prince of Wales's hairstyle was not something that could be simply tied up. It was actually quite a troublesome hairstyle. He retorted, "Master, what do you think looks good? I remember you said you like long hair. To be honest, I am a short hair person, and I like short hair like Xiaozai the best. Of course, Xiaozai likes it everywhere, but I also like long hair. I like long hair, but..." He still remembers the first time he saw the Prince of Wales, with his long hair hanging down, which was amazing. "Then take it off," said the Prince of Wales. "But it doesn't go well with the banquet." "It doesn't matter." He counterattacked and said, "Master, you are so careless about a man." Then the Prince of Wales untied his bun, and his long hair spread out, swaying in the sea breeze. "There's no need to let it go like this. I just think you look better with long hair. It's not that you don't look good now." After Sugu said this, he quickly retorted, "Master, stop talking, you talk too much." At this time, on the other side, Zaman saw the Prince of Wales untying his bun just because of a word. His stubborn temperament changed just because of a man's word. At this time, the feeling of uneasiness is getting bigger and bigger. If we just knew that the other party has a very powerful garrison, but the relationship with the Prince of Wales has not been shown yet, then now it has begun to show its signs. Although the Prince of Wales let down his long hair at this time in accordance with the request of counterattack, the photos still only involved the same few movements. He countered, "I remember that when the owner gave the Prince of Wales a ring, he didn't take any photos, and there were no wedding photos together. Logically speaking, even ordinary people have to take wedding photos when they get married. You didn't give the Prince of Wales a ring, wedding dress, and I didn't take wedding photos with the Prince of Wales. Even if it's a wedding ship, it doesn't look like that at all." Sugu pursed his lips and said, "There is no wedding dress now. Then you guys can give me a kiss. It's a wedding ship anyway, so even a kiss isn't a big deal." Saying this, he started to snicker at the counterattack. It turned out that the photo he took was too bland. Sugu looked at the counterattack, which was a bit too much, although he really wanted to. But he still said, "It's not good." "What's wrong? I remember Lexington went to your room in his pajamas." Seeing that the Prince of Wales' eyes were getting more and more wrong, Sugu said, "I have no objection. It's mainly the Prince of Wales." The Prince of Wales said, "Whatever, you just need to hurry up. No refusal is consent." In fact, even the Prince of Wales cannot be generous in these aspects. At this time, Sugu looked at the Prince of Wales with an expressionless face. Looking around, it seemed that no one was paying attention to this area. Only voices and music could be heard coming from the hall. Outside the hall is a fort, a garden, and the sea in the distance. There is indeed a very beautiful scenery here. Then Sugu thought about it and decided that the request for counterattack was too rough, so he rejected it. Thinking of the photos he had seen on the internet in the past, he then stretched out his hand towards the Prince of Wales, and when the other party looked at him with some doubts, he said, "This is the right way to take pictures, well, give me your hand." The Prince of Wales hesitated for a moment, put his palm on Sugu's and said, "What's the matter? I've seen those bastards showing affection before, and I've always wanted to try it. It's called a hand-in-hand travel photo. Well, I remembered how it was taken. Now you turn your back on me, put your right hand behind me, and then I pull stay, then what? Let me think about it. Right, stand behind me and take a picture of my hands and the back of the Prince of Wales." At this time, the Prince of Wales was a little confused, and he was also a little confused about the counterattack. But the counterattack is that of a good maid, she won't ask too many questions and just executes the instructions resolutely. Then she walked behind Sugu. Then he counterattacked, raised his camera and clicked, he took a picture. After a long time, he nodded and said, "I seem to have a feeling." To be honest, until now, apart from Suguhi's counterattack, the Prince of Wales is completely confused. After taking a few pictures of the counterattack, Sugu said, "Prince of Wales, let's change roles now." The characters were swapped and the scene was repeated. The Prince of Wales was still confused and Sugu was a little shy, but he was happy to shoot back. "It feels pretty awesome." Sugu said, "Actually, this kind of hand-holding photo is not very good. I have also seen people twisting their ears. You've been missing for such a long time. You're such an asshole. Just screw your ears. Isn't it a bad influence? Let's try it." Then Prince of Wales, "It's the same action as before, but instead of holding hands, you twist your ears. Be gentle." Even the Prince of Wales was stunned by such a request. She hesitated for a moment and said, "Hey, what should I do?" "That's what I just did, fighting back, taking pictures of my face and the back of the Prince of Wales, making it look like I was being dragged away with my ears twisted. That's it, laughing and joking and taking a series of photos." For Sugu, he now has Lexington, but speaking of it, the Prince of Wales can also be regarded as his wedding ship. Although generally speaking, A good man is one who is loyal to a woman, but regarding this point, Sugu had to admit that he was not a good man. And it is very clear that although he is not good at expressing, the Prince of Wales loves him no worse than Lexington. Although the favorable impression was 100% good at the beginning, but now it's like this, what can be done? Sugu looked at the blushing face of the Prince of Wales at this time and thought, even if he had a 100% favorable impression, he would have to do something romantic to make up for it, as long as the Prince of Wales liked it. So how to take romantic photos? The Prince of Wales was tall, and then Sugu saw the bench next to him. Prince of Wales, sit on the bench. How? If you want to take photos and remember them, of course this is the best way. Then, Sugu hesitated for a moment before kissing his forehead. Prince of Wales, stand here. Sugu stood behind the Prince of Wales and put his arms around the Prince of Wales from behind, giving him a full hug. Prince of Wales, sit on the bench again. Do you have a hat or fan to fight back? No, if not, just block it with your hands. Sugu stretched out his arms to cover their faces. From the perspective of the counterattack, it was a hidden kiss. Counterattack, stand on the railing, be careful, don't fall, use God's perspective, take pictures from top to bottom. Sugu and the Prince of Wales looked at the sky, the flash flashed, and the photo was frozen like this. Prince of Wales, how much do you weigh? How? I'm afraid I can't hold you, princess. You useless man, let me hug you. That doesn't matter. Although the scene was embarrassing for a time, the Prince of Wales hugged Sugu and smiled happily while holding the camera. After taking a few pictures like this, Sugu said, "Okay, put me down and let me try instead." However, the Prince of Wales did not let go. He was silent for a long time, with a look of struggle on his face, and then suddenly said, "If I can't see you again, I may really forget you. This is no joke." Saying this, the Prince of Wales gritted his teeth and kissed Sugu on the lips. To be honest, Sugu was a little confused, saying that he was the main attacker. To the people in the hall, it was unknown what Sugu and the Prince of Wales were doing. But at this time, for looking at the narrow door from a distance, well, he clenched his fists anyway. Next to him, Xie Wenjin's eyes widened and he thought to himself, how brave they were, they actually kissed there. A ship girl will never kiss an outsider unless she likes him, but if a ship girl likes him, she will also like her admiral. It was the first time I saw the Prince of Wales's face flushed, with a shy expression on his face. At this time, it would be strange to say that they are not husband and wife, and that the Prince of Wales is not a wedding ship. All the original speculations were shattered into pieces at this moment. No matter how much reluctance there was in my heart, I had to admit it. The man named Sugu was indeed the Prince of Wales's admiral and husband, and now they were showing off their affection. At this time, Zaman saw Sugu and the Prince of Wales hugging each other. Although he wanted to desperately tell himself that the scene in front of him was fake, it was clearly there. If you are a good friend, even a hug is okay. Use this reason to convince yourself. But after hearing what they said and seeing those kissing scenes, even he couldn't convince himself anymore. As an admiral, of course there are some things you can't do. It's really not okay to attack a ship girl who has an admiral. It turns out I don't know if the Prince of Wales has an admiral. Later, I guessed that he was just a fake admiral, but now I have to believe that their relationship is just like that, without any moisture in it. At this time, Xie Wenjin patted his friend on the shoulder and said, "Zaman, give up. I think your chances are slim." The chance is very slim, it is obvious that there is no chance. Even if it violates the rules generally observed by admirals, it is still very difficult to get the Prince of Wales. It shouldn't be said to be difficult, there is no possibility at all. The probability is zero, negative. Even if you express your thoughts, you will be beaten. I remembered what the Prince of Wales had said to me before, about the wedding ship and the disappearance of my admiral. It turns out that those words were not lies or perfunctory words, they were indeed true words. Zaman said, "I want to kill someone." Calm down, continue to peek here. There's nothing good to see. There's no chance at all. Let's go. In his sight, the Prince of Wales was still hugging the man, and the narrow gate began to walk back. Siewenjin caught up and said, "Don't be sad." Zaman looked back and saw that they were still hugging and taking pictures. What the hell, they were messing around and shameless. They were still hugging and kissing. They were still hugging. Embrace. Shameless. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 210. I'm not sure about the fact that my conversation with the Prince of Wales was eavesdropped, but it wasn't a big deal in the first place, and I didn't care that much about the fact that the wall had ears. Then by the time Sugu took the Prince of Wales' hand back after taking the photos, the banquet was almost over. Even some admirals who were far away from the garrison had already left with their ship wives. Of course, there are some admirals who are quite drunk. For them, everything has been arranged in the governor's mansion, and it doesn't matter even if they go back a day later. Anyway, there are enough rooms here for everyone to rest. When I came back from outside, I could no longer see the girl playing the piano, and I didn't know whether she was a ship girl or an ordinary pianist. Some of the food on the long table has not been replenished, and the drinks are also much less. It is indeed near the end of the banquet. Although it is a banquet, it usually leads to something. For example, exercises, such as the joint fleet. It was not that Sugu had not received invitations to the exercise during the banquet. After all, everyone heard that the admiral of the Prince of Wales was an ordinary person, so as an ordinary admiral, it must be easy to deal with. However, Sugu rejected all invitations to the exercise. Nothing happened at the party. The only good thing is that the relationship with the Prince of Wales has taken a big step forward, but it is a pity that it is outside and there is no chance to show affection in front of everyone. When I returned to the hall, I saw Siewenjin and Zaman. I said hello and the two looked over. Then Sugu said something, turned around and was about to leave, but was suddenly stopped by the narrow door. The other party pursed his lips and wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't speak and just showed an apologetic smile. All in all, Sugu was a little confused. The banquet ended without any problems, and nothing unexpected happened, but it is normal to have no accidents. Soon after returning to the town hall, Sugu talked to the Prince of Wales about going back together the next day. After all, they had been out for such a long time, and Lexington and the others had also been waiting for a long time, and they missed them a little. At this time, the Prince of Wales stood on the balcony outside the room and said, "Go back with you, and then look at your pile of wedding ships with blank eyes." Sugu said, "What does it mean to look down on others? Everyone is very nice. You haven't lived together for such a long time, and if you really look down on others, I will protect you. Entrusting your destiny to others. Only you are the most reliable, right? What do you mean by someone else?" Sugu was silent for a moment, then smiled and said, "Is your husband considered someone else? We agreed to stay together for the rest of our lives." Upon hearing this, the Prince of Wales smiled and said, "That's up to you. There are a lot of things to deal with when it comes to leaving. For example, the London and Lynxian ships left and have not returned yet. If everyone left now, they would be very anxious if they couldn't find anyone when they came back. But it's not appropriate for everyone to stay here, and it's not appropriate for anyone to be left alone. Speaking of which, although the London ship left early in the morning, it has always been in contact with this place and will come back occasionally. In fact, London left very early, and later we were able to find this place only by leaving letters or telling people nearby. Think about it, if everyone leaves now, Of course they have to leave letters, so London or Lincien can find them when they come back. You have to leave the letter and tell the admiral of the nearby garrison where everyone has gone. London will know when they ask. In short, double insurance. Generally speaking, leaving the garrison is regarded as resigning from the position of admiral. There are many follow-up matters to be handed over, and you cannot just leave casually. However, the Prince of Wales's garrison is not registered at the ship's headquarters. There is not much to do to come or leave. But there are some things that you still need to inform others. After all, the Prince of Wales has received help from many people during such a long time here. When he leaves, he should at least say something, at least say some words of thanks. Zaman has been staying in Siewengen's townhouse for a few days. Thinking of the scene he had seen a few days ago, Siewengen looked at the sea in the distance and said, "Do you want to investigate him?" Leaning on the balcony with some disappointment, Zaman said, "Investigation, how do you investigate? Besides, he didn't do anything bad." As an admiral, although he cannot be a perfect person, he generally will not do things that harm others with malicious intent. Then Siewengen smiled and said, "Since he and we both came from the Naval Academy in Sichuangziu, he is a student of Instructor Zeppelin. If we have the chance to go back, we will also ask Instructor Zeppelin how such a powerful person has emerged these days." Newcomer. Zaman nodded. In the Prince of Wales's room, the Prince of Wales sat behind the table and Sugu leaned against the window. "Zaman has also helped you, right? Every code is a code. Do you want to go and thank me? If I don't go, I don't owe him anything. And, I think, if I take you there, it will feel like showing off." Then Sugu said, "I never expected that. By coincidence, his instructor in the academy is actually Nelson. Since it is Nelson, then it is estimated that his ship girl should be a battleship or a battle cruiser. Speaking of Nelson, I had a sparring match with her once before, and although I was always beaten, Bismarck stood up for me in the end. Your look was a bit scary, but it didn't matter. It was just an ordinary sparring, but my skills were crushed. Nelson, I have also taken her class. Apart from her straight temper, she is actually quite a nice person." The Prince of Wales said, "Were you a student of Zeppelin when you were in the academy?" She heard Sugu talk about it. "Zeppelin, do you know him?" "No." "Then you still say?" Sugu said, "I passed the exam and became an admiral. This time, my initial ship was the USS Yorktown. Since it is an aircraft carrier, my instructor is mainly the USS Zeppelin. She should also be considered a very powerful aircraft carrier, but why?" Said, "She was trained by Akagi, haha. Akagi, you should know that our Akagi has become the instructor of the academy, but it is a pity that Kaga is not here. Zeppelin, I remember Bismarck told me later that she was very familiar with Zeppelin, the academy's instructor. I didn't know before why Zeppelin suddenly became my instructor. You know, generally speaking, even a new admiral, there is no need for instructors like Zeppelin to help. Later, thinking about it, it probably has something to do with Akagi and Bismarck. Although he became my instructor, when I arrived at the town hall, Zeppelin still didn't come. It seemed that he wanted to hand over some things. I've been out for so long. Calculating the time, Zeppelin has probably arrived at our townhouse. If she comes over, I won't be there. I don't know if there will be any problems." As Sugu said this, he thought to himself, "Chi Bolin, I wonder what Chi Bolin is doing? If she went to her townhouse, what kind of expression would she see on everyone's face?"